Anyway, welcome to Your Energy, Your Health, Be Responsible and Take Action. And I would first like to start by raising the vibration in the space that we're in by calling for the highest possible vibration and calling for the truth to come forward into our discussion so the truth can be seen, heard, and spoken, and that we all be in that frequency of truth, calling for the highest possible vibration. So, Enlakesh and Veritas, everyone. Call forth the oneness and truth of the information shared by each and every one of us on this call, and Location Veritas, with honor, respect, and gratitude. All right. And for those who, to get a greater understanding, the Enlakesh and Veritas is the declaration in which we are cleansing and clearing and uplifting the space that we're in now so that we can maintain a truthful, elevated, and enlightened discussion. And it's a powerful declaration, bringing in clarity and a greater understanding for everyone. It is a way of clearing away those thoughts that we tend to pick up and carry with us in our everyday life experiences. And those life experiences of disharmony, creating a frequency of panic and stress that we're currently in right now. So remember, our words have power. So let's remember and decide to use words carefully, using our words of upliftment, encouragement, and enlightenment. By doing so, we'll help to transform our spaces and places to its highest energetic frequency. Right. So just so that everyone, a quick reminder that a recording of this Clubhouse event will be available on our YouTube channel, the YouTube channel Enlakesh Studios. So please remember to subscribe and keep up to date with the new content that we are continuously adding to. Information of other upcoming events, new programs, new recipes, recommendations, and more. So just go to Enlakesh Studios on the YouTube. So let's get started. Last week, we have seen in the news over the past week footage of an active war of Russia against the Ukraine, and the news on the decision of the U.S. to support Ukraine with weapons to support them in this war. And what they're figuring out is considering is an indirect message of declaration of war for us. And all of this is fear. It's all fear. And there are multiple opposing views, different views. Some of the views to stop this madman, as they call him, Putin, from inciting a war on a sovereign country of innocent people. And then others saying just leave it alone and not get involved in those affairs because we don't truly know what's going on behind those closed doors. Leaving the situation alone and to not get involved for the fear of an escalating potential nuclear war. That's another fear. There's also the fear of our worsening economy and inflationary prices affecting people's livelihoods. You know, gas prices are going out of control. And I saw on the news that the gas price in California was as high as $9 per gallon. You know, but bottom line, regardless of our viewpoints, fear is running rampant. So I just want to share a story. I got into a discussion with a friend of mine last night, and I shared with him a viewpoint of a right-wing supporter, um, a video of him sharing information with him, just basically to share him another side, another point of view. And my friend decided to call me right away, and he became pretty heated regarding the reporter's comments. And I was not trying to argue with him. And instead, what I just did was I remained quiet for him, and I waited for him while he vented. But in the meantime, while he was doing that and I was quiet, I was doing my energetic practices so that his fear frequency wouldn't latch onto me, and by doing that, I found my friend eventually calmed down. Then he apologized and then proceeded to ask me how was I doing and my family doing, which typically, and he admitted that's what he should have started off in the discussion first, So, doing these energetic practices really works. Whole responsibility, it really does work. Does anyone have any similar experiences that they'd like to share recent discussions with regards to what's going on in our today in society with this war, pending war, the economy, our current affairs. So I can share another. Oh, go ahead, Serenia. You have
Yes,
something?
Elocation Veritas, Unexpected Gratitude.
Get your-
I was listening to what you were saying about the fear, and I think, it's almost as if, I'm getting that it's almost as if, this is a great time to capitalize on the fear that was already present with what was, happening with coronavirus and things like that, and people feeling forced into taking a jab that they were unsure of, that many people were unsure of. It's all about, that was an act of war in itself. And this is kind of like feeding onto that whole, it's latched onto that train of fear, and then carrying it on, and people now are in a state of docileness and inability to see any truth in anything else because they're still so inundated with the fear from before. So it was a perfect collective consciousness idea of fear. And so
Mhm.
it just made me, that's what came into my um, my observation, my consciousness from
Mhm.
that. And thanks
Mhm.
for sharing that story about your friend, because I think it is important as a, if you feed the fear with gasoline, or if you feed, you do the practices which we know work, which acts as a coolant, to dispel that fear and not to exacerbate, flame the fire, so to speak. So it definitely works, and that was one large example, because he's already in fear,
Yep.
because he latched onto that other fear consciousness, and then you were in a higher frequency, right? You were the light in that darkness there, and the
Yeah.
light is bright. Light always brings, as Lotus says, light always brings you out of darkness. Okay, that's what I wanted to say
Right.
about it.
Right. Well, I mean, by me being silent, it kind of brought to his awareness what he was doing also too, and it helped to calm him down. Which was I'm glad of that.
Yeah, he could see himself.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah, silence is very powerful in that way.
Mhm.
It
Oh yeah.
allows it allows time for powerful reflection, and I agree with what Serenia was sharing in terms of being the light in that darkness, and what is going on, and with this whole all eyes on the war in Ukraine. It's very interesting. Now is a very important time for people to just become aware,
Mhm.
because if we flash back 5, 6 weeks ago, this wasn't really on the radar, and everything was about COVID, COVID, COVID. And I'm reading in the New York Times this morning an article that says, do COVID precautions really work?
I know now
And
they're coming out with like more,
right.
opposing side as opposed to just being one-sided all the time, and they're allowing for other viewpoints to come through now.
Well, but there is a directive there, right? Because what's happened is that people have gone so far into fear. They were saying that in New York, people are not coming out. They're not going back into the office in the same way that they are in other cities. So they were contrasting liberal cities and conservative cities. That the restaurants were not as well trafficked. And basically, what's happening in New York is they can't jumpstart the economy because people are still afraid. So
Mhm.
now the narrative is changed to say, hey, it's okay to come back. Those things, maybe they weren't so bad. Or maybe they didn't really help, because look at what's happening in other places. So we have to learn how to live with it. So all of a sudden it went from fear, 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 fear to maybe it's not so bad. And now that COVID is not the top of the agenda. It's now the war is at the top of the agenda. Also coincides with what happened earlier in February, where the Biden administration said we no longer have to, hospitals don't have to report deaths.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
basically, there's been a collective decision to declare COVID over and done
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
And part of that next is we got to get this economy going again. So you need to stop being afraid. And pretty soon, I think the whole energy is going to shift back and say, if you're wearing a mask, it's like, why are you living in fear? And there's going to be, I feel like there's going to be some peer pressure around that whole thing now going back in the other direction. What are you so afraid of? So now I think is the time for everybody to take a deep breath, zoom out, and really look at what's happening and the broad strokes, because they're signaling where our attention should be. And people are just gobbling it up and taking the bait. So how do we stay focused
Well,
on
I
the
mean,
truth,
so you're saying
right?
that diverting everyone's attention now towards the war and away from the coronavirus and the vaccine mandates and so forth. Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah.
And mm,
Yeah, well, the vaccine mandates are still standing because
yeah,
despite the fact that the article said there's questionable evidence about the effectiveness of masks and social distancing, because particularly Omicron was so contagious, they're saying, we just need to get back to business. Like they're gently trying to say, hey folks, we need to get over it,
right,
because now we need to, because it's an economic thing. But in the course of all of that, they were like, but vaccinations are still the most important thing.
right. Well, they created it. They created that fear. They created the scenario, and that's what led us to these economic struggles that we're currently having now. You know, you know. But anyway, when you talk about also New York, and it remains that way. Wasn't there a mad exodus out of New York?
Yeah,
Because
there was. And now a lot of people are coming back, but there's been a huge economic shift. And now New York is, become very expensive. It was already expensive. Now it's becoming so expensive that it's pushing people out. So the people that are coming in are not necessarily the people that were there before. So New York is transforming energetically into something other than what it was before. So there's no going back to what it was. I think, the nucleus of New York, that whole energy field is going to shift because just by virtue of everything that we went through and the people that are coming in now.
hmm so are they coming into New York City, or because from my understanding, I still have family in New York, and I mean, both of us, we were both from Long Island.
Hmm.
My understanding is that people are moving out of New York City, and that a lot of people ended up and fled into Long Island, thinking that that's being away from the actual city itself and away from what was going on, the heat
That's
that
true.
we're feeling in New York City. But it's still not, that's kind of a fallacy in itself.
Well, it was the easiest place to go. So Long
Yeah,
Island blew up, upstate New York, these
yeah,
suburbs really like mushroomed over this course of time. So what's going to be interesting now is I think the people that left, some of them are coming back. I think a lot of them already had second homes. So they were like, I'll come back when I feel comfortable. But there are
yeah,
others that have made like a life changing shift and are
yeah,
saying, you know what? I can work remotely and go in 1 or 2 days a week. I don't need to live in the city and pay that kind of money. And frankly, I'm much happier now. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
there's all these studies that are going on that are saying people, more and more people that are like of or getting close to retirement age, 59, 60s, they're opting to, retire early
Yeah,
and be
yeah, they
and
are.
be done with it. Yeah,
Yeah, they are. I mean, and they're not so much. I mean, people are concerned about finances and so forth, but they're opting to take less pay and it's more important for, you know, um, lifestyle or life value. They're valuing their life as opposed to valuing the dollar so much.
absolutely. I 100% agree. I mean, people have had 2 years to really take a long, hard look and say, hey, I'm much happier. I'm healthier. I've been able to, I've still been productive at work.
Yeah,
And I'm happier because I'm taking better care of myself. I don't have as much stress. And there are those people who really needed to be in an office and appreciate the structure, and that's fine. But I think we're just going to see this sort of, you know, everybody trying, it's like a game of musical chairs, everybody trying to find where they fit in
yeah.
this particular period, because there's this push to go back, but then people are like, not really.
Not real, right. Yeah, I see that. I see that definitely. People are shifting more to suburbs and realizing that it's not so bad and then living on top of one of each other in those condensed cities. So I want to also share another story regarding energy. And this happens to be a time during my earlier years in my training in medicine as during my residency and fellowship. I was studying for one of my board exams and was attending a conference. And I partnered with a friend, and we were both studying for the actual same exam. We were fellows. So she was the type of person who was one of those negative naysayers, always saying, oh, I'm not going to pass. I don't know anything, yada, yada, yada. Well, I found myself constantly trying to reassure her that she was going to do fine. And in the next few days, while at the conference, all of a sudden I started to like panic about taking this exam. And she tried to come to my room during that time as soon as I felt that panic, but I wouldn't let her in to my hotel room. Another friend of mine, and I was like crying here about taking this exam. It was just automatic. So one thing I have to thank this friend of mine. She calmed me down, and then she said, "You know what? I would be I I would be ashamed. It would be a shame to have done all that work preparing for the exam and then not take it because you're afraid." And when she made that statement, it just like clicked. I snapped, and it just clicked in my head. And so during the remaining time of, during the conference, because the way the conference was structured, you go to this review course and then you take the exam right afterwards. I kept my distance from this person that I came, that was also taking the exam. And I did fine. But it just reminded me, and it today I was just thinking about it. I'm like, that's just all about energy, and intuitively I knew to stay away from this person. And I didn't know the science behind it of like low vibrational energy like I do now. But again, intuitively I knew to keep away from her, which allowed me to protect myself. And I learned a lot today. So now I understand more and it makes a lot of sense. So, you know, that that being said, it's real important that we monitor our spaces and the energy that's around us, and to monitor what types of energy we allow to get close to us or to get within us. We have the ability to control what we feel, what we think, and it's a time to educate ourselves on how to do this work with our energy so that we can live better lives. And our society is so inundated with chronic illnesses. And most, if not all, are rooted by a core emotion. You know, Serenia, you've got a comment?
Yeah, so look at your first house. I was thinking, you're right. Another collective consciousness kind of thing. I think it's almost like everyone is at, it's many, many people at the vibration of illness, the vibration of fear. So they're like, well, just why not just stay there? Or, they don't even realize that they're there. And I think
Mm-hmm.
when I started doing this work, I didn't know until a lot of things, so I decided to use the tools that we've been taught to peel back those layers that I was even in fear. I didn't know I was feeling fear because I had been feeling it for so long. I had been in that pattern for so long, I couldn't identify it as that. It was
Mm-hmm.
almost like I was inured to it. It's almost, I didn't even know what it felt like, and
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't see it. And so I see that a lot of people are in that pattern. I mean, so many things are considered to be normal. So many imbalances are considered to be normal. Like right now, they've gotten, where they're not pushing the jab as much. Now the norm is to just go and take these new pills that are by the same companies. And I'm
Yes.
like, what? Because Biden told people. I don't know if you read. I'm sure you have that that test to treat thing where you get a test, and if you're COVID positive, you just go to the pharmacy and pick up the pills.
Yes. Yep. Yep. They're trying
And
to figure out any kind of way in order to get you to take either the shot or the pill.
yeah, so it's the norm, and people don't have any fear about it anymore because the fear has been so normalized.
Yes.
So
Like
it's
an
the baseline.
experiment. It's like an experiment what they did.
Yeah,
They just numbed everyone's, you know,
right.
um thoughts and fears and so forth so that they just will then just concede and do whatever they're being told to do.
Right, right. So they have no fear because the fear is just almost like they're operating in fear. It's like a person that has knots in their neck, and they don't realize that they've been lifting something heavy all the time. And they're constantly doing something to put knots in their neck, and when someone touches them, and they cringe in pain, but they live with this pain and for so long that they don't even know it's there until someone touches them, and then they're like, "Oh, it's there."
Yeah.
But I found that the work that we do, the responsibility and all of the clearing work and everything we do really puts a dent in that, in that we don't even know, and then we're like, oh man, I
Mm,
see that fear
yeah. 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 I mean, it's now time to educate ourselves so we can do something about it. There are examples. Louise Hay goes into the examples of core emotions that affect the physical, such as diabetes. Means in the a core emotion is no sweetness left, deep sorrow, lack of self-love. Shoulder pain, it's an indication of life is a burden, capacity to shoulder our responsibilities. I mean, think about it. When people are tense and they got financial issues or whatever, some worries, their neck starts bothering them. Foot pain, grounding, reluctance to move, would rather stay where they are. Back pain,
yeah, and
fear.
the arthritis. Oh yeah, and the arthritis, rigidity, inability to change position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being stuck.
Yep. 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 I mean, it's real. It's real.
Yeah.
So, knowing this, educating ourselves, it's now time to then bring ourselves back into balance and start doing simple things. Monitoring what we eat will be tremendous when it comes to assisting our thoughts. Energy is food. Supporting an alkaline diet will support our metabolic functions, our hormones, our thoughts, our emotions, all intertwine with the various regions of our body signaling and working together. When we feel good, when we think straight, we can make better decisions for ourselves. And kinesiology, we lost how that actual tool, learning that tool, but it's coming back. You can learn how to do that and ask your body. Your body is intuitive. Your body knows what it likes, what it needs. Just doing these simple things on your own will help. These are tools that we do in our monthly retreats that we give, but it's also in the quantum light property clearing classes that's given by Of the Sun to kind of retrain you in doing it. You can go online and find out, but these are tools that we should start taking advantage of and utilizing. I also have to bring up too is that those call for the truth divination cards is another great way tool for guidance. There's a lot of wisdom in there, and you can always find answers when using them. They're not like those typical tarot cards. It's totally different. It's a lot of these maxims are statements of wisdom that whenever we have these workshops periodically, they're a lot of fun, insightful, and they provide you with a lot of insight and information to help guide you. And everyone who listens, even if it's a card pulled from the general or somebody that's there in the room, because we're all typically resonating in the same frequency, it's typically applicable to you as well. So there's one workshop that's going to be given tomorrow, and they're completely free. So there's one tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. Central and 8 o'clock Eastern. That's given by Enlica Studio One, Diane. And then Serenity and myself, we're giving one Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Again, it's completely free and a lot of fun, only for 1 hour. So I encourage everyone to start taking action to elevate your vibration and frequency, and then see what it leads you to. I'm just telling you from my experience what I'm doing. I just started doing some things in my house to reduce the effects of EMF and 5G. I just found some copper mesh that's from Home Depot. I'm going to figure out how to utilize that in some of my rooms and places where I sleep at night. Just because we don't see it, we get these waves that we're like talking on the phone, on the television, the Wi-Fi. So what makes you think that it's not affecting our bodies? And let alone those long-term effects that we don't even know what's going to happen later on. So start somewhere. We are in the process of starting trying to figure out the logistics for doing the whole responsibility sessions. And that you can then find out more from our Enlica Studio YouTube channels for the times that for the sign up for those particular sessions. But whole responsibility doing that particular practice will also shift your circumstances. Not just circumstances, but also your everything is intertwined. The signaling in your body, the words have power. I encourage everyone again to go onto YouTube or subscribe and just check out the different events that are going to be occurring. Does anybody have any other comments? It's a quiet group.
I just want to say I really enjoyed the sessions with the divination cards.
Yeah.
It's been really profound.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. And I encourage everyone, again, it's completely free and a lot of fun. So, all right, everyone. If there's nothing else, it's actually 7:30 on the hour. Sometimes we run, the time frame is usually for 30 minutes, but if we go over, a lot of times we have gone over close to the hour. But this is a shorter session. We'll meet next week and have some more topics to go over. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining with honor, respect, and gratitude, and Lakesh and Veritas.
And the Christian
In
Veritas,
request
honor,
and
respect, and
veritas with honor,
gratitude.
respect, and gratitude.